There's a word that you are absolutely, categorically, constitutionally not allowed to say in the House of Commons. You cannot call a fellow MP a liar on the floor of the chamber. The Speaker will shut you down faster than a backbencher at closing time. So what do you do when you're Kemi Badenoch? You're absolutely convinced the Prime Minister isn't telling the truth, and you've got an LBC microphone in front of you. You wait until you're off the floor, you step outside the rules of the chamber, and you say it anyway. Welcome back to British Reform News, where British politics never, ever runs out of material. Right, let's get into this properly, because there's a lot happening beneath the surface of what sounds like a straightforward political spat. Kemi Badenoch went on LBC for an interview with Iain Dale, and what started as a conversation about Iran turned into a full-on character assessment of Sir Keir Starmer. And she did not hold back. She accused him of lying. Not once. Multiple times. With specific examples. On national radio. That's not a slip of the tongue. That's a deliberate move, and it's worth understanding exactly why she did it and what she's actually claiming. So let's rewind to PMQs, Prime Minister's questions, for anyone who's somehow stumbled onto a UK politics channel without knowing what that is. It's the weekly Westminster theatrical production where the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition go at each other across the dispatch box while everyone else shouts, gesticulates, and pretends they're in a mature democracy. Starmer, according to Badenoch, has been repeatedly claiming at PMQs that she supported Donald Trump's strikes on Iran right from the very beginning. And Badenoch says that's a deliberate distortion. Her actual position, as she explained it, was that she expressed verbal support, like the Canadians and Australians, who put out statements, and specifically questioned why the UK wasn't doing the same. There's a difference between saying, "I back these strikes wholeheartedly," and saying, "Why hasn't Britain even made a statement yet?" Whether you think that distinction matters or not, her argument is that Starmer is flattening her nuanced position into something much simpler and much more damaging, and doing it on purpose, week after week, at the dispatch box. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because Badenoch didn't just stop at the Iran point. She went further and brought up Lord Peter Mandelson. This is the claim that Starmer said he didn't know the full extent of Mandelson's relationship with someone, and then documents were released, in black and white, that told a very different story. Badenoch is essentially saying, this isn't a one-off. This is a pattern. A man who will say things at the dispatch box that aren't accurate, and who uses PMQs as a vehicle for political misdirection rather than genuine accountability. That's a serious accusation to level at any Prime Minister, and Iain Dale, to his credit, called it out directly. He said, "That's quite an accusation to make about the Prime Minister." And Badenoch's response? She doubled down. She pointed to another specific example. Starmer has apparently claimed at PMQs that Badenoch never signed any trade deals as a minister. And she fired back hard on this one, saying she signed multiple deals, including the CPTPP, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is the biggest trade deal the UK has struck since leaving the EU. That's not a minor footnote. That's a significant piece of a ministerial record. If Starmer is genuinely claiming she signed no trade deals at all, and the CPTPP exists, then that's not spin. That's flatly incorrect. Now, you could argue about context, framing, or what exactly was said in the chamber on which day. That's politics. But Badenoch's point is that the cumulative effect of these moments adds up to something more than careless phrasing. And let's just pause here to appreciate the constitutional quirk at the heart of all of this. Deliberately misleading the House of Commons is a breach of the ministerial code. It's not just rude. It's technically a serious violation of parliamentary standards. But here's the catch. You cannot call another MP a liar on the floor of the House. The Speaker won't allow it. So this centuries-old tradition, designed to keep debate civil and collegial, creates a situation where you can potentially mislead the chamber and your political opponents have almost no way to call it out directly in the moment. It's a bit like a referee being banned from blowing the whistle. Badenoch can't say it in the chamber, so she goes on LBC and says it loudly and clearly where the Speaker has absolutely no jurisdiction whatsoever. But here's the layer underneath all of this that's worth chewing on. Badenoch's broader characterization of Starmer is revealing. She said is not on top of his brief, his evasive, his probably lying. She said she can tell when he's lying. That's not just opposition knockabout. That's a sustained attempt to define him as a prime minister who lacks both competence and integrity. In the game of political narratives, that's one of the most damaging labels you can try to attach to a sitting leader. If it sticks, it colors every policy announcement, every speech, every press conference. Once voters start hearing his evasive enough times, they start listening for it. And then came the genuinely fascinating bit of the interview, the personal stuff. Because Dale asked whether Starmer is a bad person, and Badenoch, to her credit, gave a thoughtful and surprisingly measured answer. She said she doesn't know how. Now look, Labour hasn't officially responded to all of this at the time of writing, and they absolutely should be given the chance to push back. There are two sides to every one of these specific claims, and the full context of what was said at PMQs on each occasion would need to be examined carefully before anyone renders a definitive verdict. Politics is a contact sport, and both sides stretch the truth in the chamber. It's practically a tradition at this point. What makes this different is the directness and the specificity of Badenoch's accusations. She's not just saying the government has failed. She's naming exact incidents, exact claims, and calling them lies by name on a major radio station. That's a calculated escalation, and it tells you something about where the Conservative opposition is right now under Badenoch's leadership. She's not playing the polite, genteel game of parliamentary opposition. She's going harder, faster, and more personally than her predecessors. Whether that's a winning strategy or an overreach, that's the question that's going to define her leadership over the next couple of years. What's clear is that the relationship between Starmer and Badenoch across the dispatch box is not going to get warmer anytime soon. PMQs is already theatre. Now it's theatre with receipts. That's your British Reform news hit for this one. If this kind of sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of what's actually going on in Westminster is your thing, hit subscribe because we are here multiple times a day, every single